All right, welcome everyone. I am absolutely thrilled to have you here today. In this explainer, we're going to unpack some seriously powerful, timeless wisdom. We're stripping away the noise, all those endless daily distractions and that loud external chaos, just to focus on something infinitely more profound, the mastery of stillness. So get ready, because what we're looking at today isn't just, interesting information. It's literally meant to challenge how you see your very own mind.
And look, today's explainer is not motivation, it's transformation. We are diving deep into some Bruce Lee-style philosophy today. And the thing about this kind of wisdom, it demands honest action, not just passive listening. Motivation is just a feeling, right? And feelings fade. We aren't here to just pump you up so you crash tomorrow. We're here to talk about the kind of truth that doesn't just comfort you, but fundamentally rewires how you operate from the inside out.
So let's jump right into part one, the sky and clouds. Before we can conquer the outside world, we really have to figure out our own internal weather. Consider this. Thoughts are clouds. You are the sky. Man, think about how much suffering comes from just confusing those two. When you feel a passing doubt, or a moment of fear, or even a huge wave of anxiety, it doesn't mean you're fundamentally broken. It absolutely doesn't mean you're weak. It just means a cloud is drifting through your permanent, unshakable sky. You are the vast space underneath all of that. And when you just let those clouds drift without clinging to them as your identity, well, the space remains yours.
It's actually kind of fascinating how we can redefine something we usually find so peaceful. Stillness isn't just, taking a nap. Stillness is the exposure of what you've been avoiding. People so often fear silence because it acts like a mirror. It shows them their own reflection. But silence isn't an enemy to be feared. It's actually your ultimate teacher. It sharpens your awareness. The reality is your doubts and insecurities only survive when you're distracted. When you finally get still, you expose them right to the light.
Which brings us to part two, mountain in the storm. We've looked at the internal weather, but what actually happens when the outside world gets rough? I want you to imagine a massive mountain facing a tempest. Storms cannot harm a mountain that stands unmoved. External pressures, harsh conditions, downright hardships, they don't actually break you. They just reveal what you're made of. They show whether your internal foundation is truly deep or if it's just a facade that's going to collapse under the weight. You see, depth cannot be pretended when the storm hits. You either hold your ground like the mountain or you wash away.
And this brings us to a somewhat harsh truth about healing. We often think of healing as getting back to this state of warm, fuzzy comfort. But real healing, it's not comfort at all. Healing is clarity. Standing firm right in the middle of your storms brings a harsh, striking, but absolutely necessary clarity. You stop running. You face the wind. And in that raw exposure, real growth finally takes root.
All right, let's pivot a bit to part three, ego versus true awareness. Let's look at how we actually relate to the people and the world around us. So ego seeks attention and says, look at me. True confidence, on the other hand, just seeks improvement and quietly says, let me work. Ego is essentially a desperate plea for external validation, whereas confidence is this quiet, internal drive. The source text points out something brilliant here. The exact moment someone's ego convinces them they're unbeatable, they are already defeated. True mastery isn't about superiority over others. It's entirely about superiority over your former self.
Building on that, we see this really stark contrast between force and awareness. Force is easy to achieve, and it constantly seeks dominance. People are always chasing it. They chase dominance and the cheap illusion of power. But what is incredibly rare is the strength of pure awareness, being able to remain entirely conscious and deliberate while under immense pressure. When you seek clarity and awareness, you realize that true strength requires absolutely zero applause. Those loud, "I'm changing my life" announcements, that's not the real work. The quiet, daily consistency is.
Which leads us to this really fascinating point. Comparison begins when self-identity is unclear. When your self-understanding is weak, you desperately seek external approval to tell you who you are. Approval basically replaces self-trust, but control is always internal. When you truly understand yourself, that need to constantly measure your worth against everyone around you, it just vanishes. And that deep self-trust fundamentally stems from internal discipline.
Now this brings us to a huge wall we all hit in our daily habits. If self-trust and discipline are the ultimate answers, why do people choose comfort even when it completely destroys their potential for growth? That leads right into our final section, part 4, the discipline of flow. How do we actually live out this philosophy day to day? Well, we do it by answering that exact question.
People choose comfort because it offers an immediate, highly seductive illusion of safety.
You stay where it's warm. You don't take risks. You don't face the storm. But growth? Growth demands hard, honest responsibility. Everyone wants fast results, right? But they actively avoid the hard work required to actually get them.
So the crucial step is adopting what we call the quiet actions of healing. First off, stop resisting what already is. Second, take on literally the hardest task a person can do. Express yourself honestly without lying to yourself. And third, never choose excuses. To hell of circumstances, I create opportunities. The source reminds us that ordinary people become incredibly strong, not through some magic trick, but by simply refusing to lie to themselves and working harder than everyone else.
It really all comes down to 1%. Listen to this staggering mathematical reality. If you get just 1% better every day, you aren't just a little improved by the end of the year. You are 37 times better. 37! People want greatness, but they only train when they feel motivated. And like we talked about earlier, motivation fades. Discipline is what stays. If you improve just 1% today, you're already measurably stronger than yesterday. True strength relies on permanent, quiet discipline, just showing up every single day, especially on the days you really don't feel like it.
To flow is to stop resisting what already is. Water adapts, yet remains itself. Wow, that is the very essence of living free. You face the storm, you adapt to the harsh circumstances of whatever terrain you're in, but your core identity, your sky, your mountain, remains totally intact. Absolute freedom is flowing with reality, not fighting it, while never, ever losing your true self.
And we really have to act on this right now, because of this powerful realization, time does not pass, we pass. Let that sink in for a second. Time isn't moving past you, you are moving through it. The moment you truly internalize this, the fleeting preciousness of every single second becomes undeniably clear. You stop waiting for the perfect motivation. Actually, scratch that. You stop making excuses entirely, and you just start acting right now.
Which leaves us with this final, vital question for you to ponder. Every second is precious. Will you choose awareness, or will you chase the clouds? Remember, your discipline is your freedom. Your clarity is your healing. And the storms? They cannot move the mountain inside you. Thank you so much for walking through this explainer with me today. Take this structured wisdom, step out into the storm, and return to yourself. See you next time.